and today stands at the edge of a crisis that most of the world still doesn't fully understand. A nation with thousands of years of history, powerful culture, unmatched resilience, and one of the Middle East's most strategic locations is now struggling with something so basic and so essential that without it, life simply cannot exist: water. For millions of Iranians, clean water is no longer a daily convenience, but a daily battle for survival. What was once a country flowing with mighty rivers, fertile plains, and naturally abundant mountain springs is now staring at empty reservoirs, shrinking lakes, dying farmland, and thirsty cities. And the truth is far harsher than what Iran's leaders admit publicly. This is not just a drought. This is not just a temporary climate problem. This is a full-scale water collapse, a national emergency that even the country's leadership can no longer stop. Across Iran, families wake up each morning checking one thing first: not their phones, not their jobs, not the news, but whether water will run through their taps today. In many regions, entire neighborhoods go without water for days, sometimes weeks. Children walk kilometers with buckets while temperatures scorch past 45 degrees C. Farmers watch their land crack open like broken glass, the soil turning to dust as crops wither one after another. It's not only food production that's crashing, but livelihoods, futures, and hope itself. Iran, a nation built on ancient engineering marvels like the qanats, underground water tunnels that once brought life to deserts, is now fighting a crisis far more intense than anything its past civilizations ever faced. What caused this? The reasons are many, but they all point in one direction: decades of mismanagement, political denial, and climate pressure pushing Iran toward irreversible collapse. For years, leaders invested heavily in infrastructure that made the situation worse: dams built in the wrong places, rivers diverted for political reasons, water, intensive crops forced onto land that simply could not sustain them, and industries that consumed far more water than nature could ever replenish. Add to this the rising temperatures caused by global climate shifts, and Iran is now locked in a dangerous cycle where every year is hotter, every drought is longer, and every rainfall is weaker. In central Iran once, green lands have turned brown and lifeless. Cities like Isfahan, famous for historic architecture, culture, and vibrant life, are losing their lifeline. The Zay-and-Rud River, the heart of the city, now runs dry during most months. Where children once played and families gathered under bridges, you now see dust storms rolling through an empty riverbed. Farmers from the region have protested again and again as their fields turn barren, but the problem is far too big for one region or even one government policy. This is a nationwide collapse. To understand the scale, imagine this: more than 97% of Iran is now classified as experiencing some form of drought. Groundwater, the slow, hidden reserve that takes centuries to store, has been pumped so aggressively that many wells have simply died. In some villages, wells that once reached water at 40 meters now require drilling beyond 300 meters, and even then, nothing flows. The land itself is sinking literally. Cities like Tehran, Mashhad, and Yazd are experiencing land subsidence where the ground collapses because the water beneath is gone. In some places, the land is sinking faster than major cities like Mexico City or Jakarta, a warning that buildings, roads, and entire districts may become structurally unsafe in the years ahead. As the water dries up, tensions rise. Internal pressures, local conflicts, and political anger are boiling beneath the surface. In some provinces, communities fight over access to shared canals. In others, people block highways to demand emergency water supplies. Iran's leaders try to control the narrative, insisting that the situation is under control. But the truth is unfolding directly in front of the public. Water trucks arrive late, authorities ration supplies, and entire lake ecosystems collapse. Lake Urmia, once the largest saltwater lake in the Middle East, has shrunk to a fraction of its former size. What remains now is a toxic salt plain, sending deadly salt storms into nearby towns and farmlands, destroying crops and making the air nearly unbreathable. Experts call this one of the largest environmental disasters in modern Iranian history. The tragedy is that it didn't have to be this way. Iran's geography is challenging, yes, but not impossible. Ancient Persian empires managed water with extraordinary intelligence, adapting desert environments into flourishing civilizations. But modern politics, combined with short-term decisions and lack of long-term planning, created a system where water has been treated as an unlimited resource, when in reality, it is Iran's most fragile asset. Consider agriculture. Nearly 90% of Iran's water is used for farming, yet much of it is wasted. Crops like rice and sugarcane, which demand massive amounts of water, are grown in regions that can barely sustain them. Outdated irrigation systems allow millions of liters to evaporate every year. Instead of modern drip systems, water flows openly, like in ancient times. Even though the environmental conditions are now far harsher, farmers are not to blame. Many simply follow government policies and rely on old methods because they cannot afford new ones. But the result is devastating. Industries consume another huge portion of the country's limited water. Factories, petrochemical plants, and steel production lines were constructed in places where even drinking water is scarce. These projects generate income but drain natural reserves, and once groundwater disappears, it is gone forever. No amount of rain can refill a deep aquifer in a human lifetime. The human stories inside Iran's water crisis are heartbreaking. In Sistan and Balochistan, one of the hardest hit regions, people often wait hours under burning sun for government water trucks to arrive. When the trucks come, chaos unfolds as everyone tries to fill buckets before the supply finishes. Children here grow up seeing water as something precious, something scarce, something never guaranteed. Schools have had to shut down on some days because they couldn't provide safe drinking water for students. Entire villages have migrated in search of water, modern-day climate refugees inside their own country. But this isn't just a humanitarian issue, it's a geopolitical one. Water scarcity is shifting Iran's internal politics, its economy, and even its foreign policy. With reservoirs drying and agriculture collapsing, Iran increasingly depends on imports for basic food supplies. Urban centers face mounting pressure as rural families migrate toward big cities. The resulting population growth strains hospitals, transport, housing, everything. The leadership faces the impossible challenge of balancing national stability with environmental reality. While officials announce ambitious plans, cloud seeding, desalination projects, new dams, the truth is that none of these are quick solutions. Desalination requires electricity, money, and long-term infrastructure that Iran currently struggles to maintain under sanctions. Cloud seeding offers minimal results, and new dams, they only move water from one region to another, worsening the crisis downstream. At this point, even if Iran stopped all water misuse today, the recovery would take decades. Aquifers need centuries, lakes need continuous inflow, and rivers require protection from pollution and overuse. But Iran does not have centuries, it barely has years. This is a race against time, a race to preserve the remaining water before the nation crosses a point of no return. As we look at this crisis, we must also acknowledge the strength of Iran's people. Despite everything, they continue to adapt. Engineers work day and night to propose sustainable methods. Environmental groups raise awareness. Farmers attempt to shift crops. Scientists warn about long-term consequences. Citizens share water, gather resources, and help one another survive. Their resilience is powerful, but resilience alone cannot refill rivers. This is Iran's most dangerous challenge, a challenge that cannot be fought with military force, political pressure, or diplomacy, a challenge that does not negotiate, does not wait, and does not discriminate. Water scarcity affects everyone, rich or poor, young or old, city or village. This disaster reaches every level of society. What happens next will define Iran's future. Will leaders finally take the bold measures needed to secure water? Will sustainable systems replace outdated ones? Will international cooperation, technology, and research be welcomed instead of feared? Will the country adapt before it is too late? The world is watching, and more importantly, Iran's own people are watching, hoping for action, praying for change, and fighting every day to survive the greatest environmental threat the nation has ever seen.